Okay then. Good morning friends. Yeah, this is Madhu again. In yesterday's session we have discussed about what is Java. Yes, we know that Java is a general purpose object oriented programming language. So after seeing that answer, we have raised another question, that is, what is language? Yeah, language is a medium which is used to interact with you, which is used to interact with others. But programming language is also a language which is used to interact with a computer. So why we interact with the computer? To perform any arithmetic task very easily, fastly, and yeah, we can do the task very easily, right, in less time. Within nanoseconds we can perform many tasks. We can store lots of data. We can get the data whenever you want. So that's why we use computers. Thank you. Then we have talked about translators. And also I've shown you how to talk with the computer by using C, how to talk with the computer by using Python. Okay? So at the time of writing C or Python programs, I'm not writing those programs in machine language, right? I'm not writing those programs in ones and zeros. I'm writing those programs in English, to be so frankly, English. So in Java or C or C++, in Python or PHP or HTML, CSS, JavaScript, if you write the code in these languages, yes, we can use A to Z alphabets, 0 to 9 numbers, plus division, etc., whatever the keys you are finding on the keyboard. All these keys are in general understandable. Everyone use it in general, right? So that's why I'm writing the code in English, looking like English, right? So if I write the code in English, can computer understand? No, it can't understand. We know that, right? So that's why to write the code which is in non-machine language has to be transferred into machine language. To translate to machine language, we have three translators. One is compiler, and second one is interpreter, and third one is assembler. We have three types of translators are there. We have discussed about it yesterday itself. But I would like to give you some more clarity that, yeah. So we know that. What is the use of assembler? We have machine language. It's very difficult to write the programs. Only we need to write, the programmer need to write the code in ones and zeros. That's very difficult. That's why some developers introduced assembly language. It is better than, it's very easier than machine language. To write the code, it is easy compared with machine language. Okay? So to convert that to convert that assembly language is written in which language? It looks like English, right? So it's not machine language. So you need to convert that assembly language code into machine language. For that I have used assembler. To convert the C code into machine code, I have used compiler. To convert the PHP code into machine code, I have used interpreter. Got it? So but one point you have to remember, which purpose I am using these three translators. That name itself saying that used to translate data from one language to another language, source to destination. Sometimes that one language is C, another language is machine language. Sometimes that one language is Java, another languages are destination languages, sometimes byte code, not machine code. So here, don't fix it. What? Don't fix it that compiler always translates the code from source code to machine code. Sometimes the compiler translates the source code into some other code also. So don't fix that, what you call, answer. Compiler is used to translate high level language into machine language, C language into machine language, C++ language into machine language. That's not correct. Java code into machine language. That's not correct. Okay, because sometimes compiler behaves differently. Like C compiler is different from Java compiler. C compiler translates the C code into machine code. Who runs that machine code? That compiler won't execute that mission code. We know that, right? Okay, so compiler is just used to translate the code. At the time of compilation, if you compile the C program, we know that compiler translate the C program into object code, and if you give the control F9 command, that object code will be transferred into .exe file. That .exe file contains pure executable code and mission code. Okay, that mission code can be executed in a computer, in an operating system, in which operating system it is actually generated. For example, let us say exe file is created in Windows operating system, then that exe file will be executed only in other Windows operating system with same configuration. Simply we can say same platform, same version even also. Okay, so that .exe file will be executed in the same version, even 32-bit, 64-bit. If this bit is different from, for example, Windows 32-bit operating system, so one .exe file is generated in Windows 32-bit operating system. It might not work in Windows 64-bit operating system because platform is changed. Okay, so like that. Okay, compiler always translates the source code into destination code. It might be a mission code, it might be a byte code, it might be a object code sometime, right? At the time of compilation in C program, we are generating object code. So object is also low level code. Byte code is also, we can say low level code. Machine language is also low level code, but all these three are not same, different, little bit different. Okay, thank you all guys. So compiler translates the total code at a time. We can't use the compiler to execute the program. So at the time of execution, we can use the compiler. That's different thing. At the time of execution means to convert .exe file, we need to use the compiler. So the .exe file get executed, right? So in C, we use the command control F9, control plus F9. That control F9 command actually converts the object code into mission code, and that will be placed in .exe file. That .exe file automatically get executed. That's why we say sometimes compiler is used to run the program, but actually compiler is not used to run the program. Okay, it translates the object code into mission code in C. If you give the control F9, that mission code will be placed in .exe file. That .exe file will be executed by our computer. The .exe file contains all mission code. In that mission code, we have given many instructions like allocate memory for ABC, print ABC, or perform addition operation on AB, store that result in C. Such type of commands are converted into mission code, and those instructions are placed in .exe file. That's what happens actually about. Okay, that's what I would like to convey to you all, my guys. Yeah, compiler, interpreter, assembler, both these all these three are only translators which translates one language to another language. Assembler translates assembly language into machine language, damn sure. Interpreter converts assembly language into high level language into machine code. It's also confirmed. But compiler sometimes converts high level language into low level language, but that low level language may be a byte code or binary code, or it may be sometimes object code. Okay, that's why don't fix about compiler that it always translates high level code into machine code. High level to low level is okay, correct answer, but high level language into machine code is not correct, because sometimes it won't generate machine code. Sometimes it generates some other codes like byte code, etc. Thank you all. So this is the difference between compiler and interpreter. Compiler translates the source code into destination code, and it translates the total code at a time, right? It displays all the errors at a time, and translation of code is faster. We know that. It gives the .exe file to the clients. It always, I already yesterday told you, compiler put the translated code in a separate file. That is the mannerism of compiler. Okay, and it always put the translated code in a separate file, right? Next, we can give some more point also here. Compiler, okay, it's not needed actually. Okay, compiler makes the developers to hide the source code. Means compiler makes the developer or software company makes the developer not to reveal the code, or makes the developer to hide the source code from the clients. Let's say you are a client, you have a requirement that you need to you have a requirement that your requirement is developing a game. You have asked me, just a moment, it's not okay, this is seventh point. Compiler makes the developer to hide the source code from clients. Okay, let us say you are the client, you came to my company to develop a gaming software. So we have developed it, so that too your intention is please develop it only in C language. That's what you have told me. So we have developed a game in C language and we'll provide you only .exe file, not the actual code we have written. Okay, and if you want to modify the game, we have that source code, right? We'll modify it again. We'll try to convert we will try to generate exe file by using compiler, and we will provide that exe file to you. Now tell me I have given exe file to you, right? You are the client, so in your system you can run it, but your system must be same platform, that way which is equals to the computer where we have actually developed that game. For example, I have developed that game in Windows operating system, so your system also must be a Windows operating system. That is the only rule we need to follow. Okay, you have taken you have taken your software and you have paid the amount for that software for development. Okay, so you have paid the amount, now you have taken it, and now tell me which code I am giving to you, exe file. Can you modify it? You can't modify it. Where we need to do modifications, if you want to modify the actual output, or we can say actual game, so you need to come to the company, you will ask the developers, or some project manager will be there, right? So you will ask them about, otherwise director will be there, you can directly talk with that director, or who is maintaining the total project. If a separate project manager is there, then he will get calls, and if you do any modifications, yes, we will perform the modifications in maintenance phase. Okay, cool. So what I would like to convey to you all, simple. So here, if you are writing code in C, we are providing exe file to them, we are hiding, or we are not distributing the source code to everyone, to the clients. So modification is totally under the control of developers or software company. But comes to interpreter, let's say you have came to the company again, we like to develop a website that you are going to start a hotel in USA. In USA you want to start a hotel which is Andhra hotel, you like to start. Okay, so for that you came to me to develop a website regarding all the recipes and all the price details, and to maintain the customers details, sending messages, sending mails and everything. Okay, I have developed it in PHP. Let us say I have developed in PHP. Now which code I'll give to you? You are the client, right? In PHP I developed. Can I create .exe file here? No, PHP file will be transferred into mission code by using interpreter. Interpreter executes the PHP code line by line. It will translate the first line into mission code and let that line executed by the computer. So who executes that one? Yes, computer itself, but translator is interpreter. How it translates? Line by line. On the fly, every statement will get executed after translation. Got the point? So which code I have to give to the client now? Directly source code I have to give. I have to release the source code. So I have given this total source code to you. Okay, you have deployed it in like GoDaddy or BigRaw somewhere else in a server. You have deployed it, and also you have taken a name called www.andhra-recipe.com. Such that is your actually hotel name, Andhra Recipe something. Okay. So now tell me, if you want to modify the code, you can come to me. Otherwise, if you don't like me, how I'm handling, you can shift to other company, because you have that source code. Total source code will be in your control. Even if you are a developer, if you are a PHP developer, you know somewhat some knowledge, but you don't know how to develop every total project from A to Z. You went to the company, they have developed it and given to the they have given the total website to you. After seeing the code, you can understand what they have written. If you want to do some modifications, if you go to the company, they'll charge more money. You know that. So what do you do then? What do you do in such a situation? Yeah, you'll definitely open the code and do some modifications and upload it to the redeploy it to the GoDaddy server, and that will be available in the total world, right? So from anywhere we can access it, right? So now the question is, if you are using interpreter to develop a particular software or website or application, we have to provide the total source code to the clients. If you are using a compiler, we will provide only .exe file or low level code to the client. Client cannot modify it. Client has to come to this software company back, and he has to ask the modifications. This is also one difference between compiler and interpreter. So can we use the compiler to run the code? Yes, but we can say give the like this answer. At the time of executing code, we can use it. Means not for execution, in my point of view. Okay, it is to translate the actual code or by object code into machine code. That's why. So simply we can say, at last I can give you a solution that translators are used to translate, not execution purpose. That's what you have to understand. Thank you all, guys. You might have understand. This is all about previous session with some modifications, with little bit modifications. Okay, thank you. Now, I would like to discuss about how many types of languages are there in computer world. All the languages are divided into some categories like translators, compiler, interpreter, assembler. Only 3 translators are there. Is it correct? Java translators, Java compiler is different, C compiler is different, C++ compiler is different. Even Python, Python we say that it is an interpreted language, right? If you go deeper, it is not an interpreted language, it is a compiled and interpreted language, even Python also. Just like Java, it is a compiled and interpreted language, Python. Okay, so yeah, now tell me, so Python compiler is different. Like that, so many languages have the compiler. Even in .NET also, we will have the separate compilers, right? So compiler is different, but we are saying so the translator which behaves like this is called compiler. Translator which behaves like this, it is called interpreter. So translator which translates the total code at a time. Translator, after translating the code, it will places the separate file. And translator which always generates a separate file like .exe file or .obj file, then it is a compiler. And that compiler is also used to check whether our code contains some syntax errors or not. It is a compiler. Comes to interpreter, it directly at the time of execution only we use this translator. So if you want to execute the program, give it to me. I'll translate to machine code line by line, and I'll give it to the computer on the fly. So first line will get executed after translation by the computer. So interpreter translates first line, second line, third line, fourth line. So translation, execution, translation, execution, translation, execution. If any translator is there behaving like this, that is called an interpreter. That's it. If any translator is there which is used to translate assembly language into machine language, that is called assembler. That's it. So based on behavior, we have decided to total translators into 3 categories like that. We have many languages: C, C++, Java, Basic, Fortran, FoxPro, even COBOL, Python, PHP, even scripting language like JavaScript, Shell script, Perl. Like that, we have different languages, many languages, right? So all those languages, even machine language, assembly language, All these languages are categorized into, are divided into three categories or three types. One, low level languages. And two, high level languages. And three, middle level languages. So low level, high level and middle level languages. Which languages are called as low level languages? Which languages are called as low level languages? First point. If we write the programs in low level languages, it is very difficult to write the programs. First thing, it is difficult to write the programs, difficult to understand, so if you write the program in machine language, so writing machine language program is difficult, first thing. And the code which is written in machine code, it's understandable is very difficult. It's very difficult to understand. Okay, and if you got some errors, debugging is also becoming difficult. So it's hard to write, hard to understand, very hard to debug, and the low level languages are called as, which languages are called as low level language? Another important point is all the low level languages are directly interact with the electronic devices of the computer. Example, directly interact with the memory areas, directly interact with the memory blocks. For example, we have RAM or we have hard disk. If you write the code in low level languages, that can directly interact with the hardware components of the computer. It's possible. They can directly deal with the memory without any layer. So low level languages languages can directly interact with the hardware components of a computer. Best examples for low level languages are machine language, and assembly language. So these two are called low level languages, because by using mission language and assembly languages we can directly deal with memory, we can directly interact with hardware components, we can directly handle all the hardware components. So advantage is we can easily manage the hardware components, or we can easily manage the memory, so that because we can directly interact with the memory blocks, right? Means, for example, if you have allocated memory for some variable, I can directly deal with that memory without any mediator. So the drawback is, what is the drawback? Advantage is we are able to directly interact with the hardware components, so we can develop low level logic, means the logic which are used to handle electronic device of hardware components of a computer is very easy. Advantage, we can write the code, it is very efficient, it is, our low level languages are very efficient to develop the code or software used to handle, our code used to directly, used to handle, and handle is enough, used to handle hardware components. What is the drawback then? We can directly interact with the memory, hardware components of a computer, right? So what is the problem? I'll let you know. Sometimes it is good, but sometimes it will be a problem. See, if we go to the bank, yes, bank is there, it has some address, okay, you went there for transaction, but there nobody is there, cash cabin is there, you have to go to that cabin and you can get the money, your money, that's it. No security is there, you are directly dealing with that cash cabin, or the cabin where the cash is actually placed. No what do you call, no manager, no bank manager, no cashier, or no other what do you call, job holder, like no other employee. Directly we can deal with the bank. So you can deposit your money, go to the bank and deposit there itself. Some racks will be there, put it there, that's it, put your cash is in that racks, and we don't have any security for that data, or for that money. Somebody else will go there and he can, if he want, he can pick the total amount, right? So if you don't provide an environment, see, if you go to the bank, you'll see a separate setup, right? Entrance, some security guard will be there with a rifle, and some help desk will be there. If you have any doubts, if you want loans, if you want to open an account, you have to go to their help desk. They will provide some application form, you have to fill it, you have to provide some other details they will ask you. So like that, some setup will be there, right? So many employees will be available, a number of deposited cash counters will be there, and deposit counters will be there, and to open to ask for loans, separate manager cabin will be there. So this is a separate setup, it is an office, so you can't directly deal with the memory. Memory means, in my point of view, the cabin or the desks where you kept your ornaments or cash, etc. See, directly dealing is advantage is there, because I no need to talk with all these things, all these guys. So I can directly enter into the memory. I'll get my the things whatever I have placed there. But the problem is, if know about that address, somebody else, he can directly get that amount also. If he know about that locker, okay, directly he will get the data. No security is there, direct interaction is there. That's why some problem will be occurred like that. If you are writing code in low level logic, one advantage is you can directly interact with the hardware components of a computer, but there is no security. If you store some data in a particular RAM, hacker can easily hack the data if he knows about the address of that memory, right? We don't have any security, there is no checking is there, there is no what you call security guard is there, right? Such type of environment will be provided in high level languages. So low level languages, direct interaction. Low level languages are used to develop efficient applications, just like compilers or such type of codes, very easily to handle all these things, to hardware things, to handle hardware components. Got my point? Yes. So comes to high level languages. High level languages. Let us discuss about high level languages. Which languages are called as high level languages? Easy to write the code, easy to write the code, easy to understand the code, easy to debug or maintain. Maintenance becomes easy. Maintenance becomes easy. In maintenance, debugging also will be there, right? Okay, no problem. Give it as new point. It won't be a problem, right? Debugging also becomes easy. See, if you write the code in high level language, even other persons also easily understands that code. It's not that much hard compared with low level languages. It's very easy because the writing code in high level languages are in such a way that we are talking in our language, our human language. Like we have in most of the cases, if you write the program in high level language, we use the English. Even we can use Telugu, some other language also. Such type of language we have actually. See, in Java we have the feature called there. In Java we can use any type of characters even. I can declare a variable in Telugu also even. I can declare variable in English, Hindi. In Python also we can do the same. In .NET also we can do the same. So in .NET, in Python or Java, we can use the languages. We can say whatever the language human speaks, and human has that scripture. So all the human languages we can use in Java, in Python, in .NET. All the human languages like Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam, what you call Devanagari, it's very, very old, right? Even Sanskrit, Hindi, Urdu, Spanish, every language, even every language, even Odissi, okay, Spanish, Chinese, English. So every language I can use actually. We have that feature, okay. But in most of the cases we write the program in English only, okay. Yeah. Thank you all guys. We'll see how we can write those languages also, how we can use those characters also later, okay. So now tell me, so we can use the code in high level language in which language? Which is in understandable way. So that's why it is called as high level language. We write the code in human understandable language, not in ones and zeros or not in some mnemonics, etc. Thank you all. Next, another Another important point is high level languages cannot directly handle the hardware components of a computer. High level languages, these languages cannot directly interact with hardware components of a computer. I'll tell you one thing. See, Java is a high level language. Absolutely damn sure we can say it is a high level language. Okay? Because it cannot directly interact with hardware components. To interact with hardware components, yes, we need to use some native methods, native code. Native methods means the code which is written in other languages like C. See, here C language is called as middle level language, not high level actually, because it has the features that easy to write, easy to understand, easy to maintain, easy to debug, everything is fine. But by using C, I can directly interact with the hardware components. I can directly handle the hardware components. Means that is a low level logic I can write by using C. That's why C is called as middle level language. I am using that C to interact with the hardware components in Java. See, you in future you might heard some words like native methods. In Java we use native methods. Native methods means the methods which are written in other languages like C. So in Java I can use C language methods so that I can directly interact with the hardware components of a computer. Which means, yes, Java is high level language, but sometimes it is said to be low level because I am able to interact with the hardware components even though I am using C language methods. But I am doing it, right? That's why sometimes we can say it is a middle level language. But middle level languages are languages there we can write the programs very easily, very easy to understand, very easy to debug and maintain and everything. Okay, but these can directly interact with the hardware components. Comes to Java, in Java we cannot directly interact with the hardware components. Here we have a virtual machine. If you want to allocate memory in RAM for A, for example, you have declared int A in Java, int A in Java. Okay, for that A, memory will be allocated in RAM. But who performs that one? Can this Java program directly interact with the hardware components? No. Can this C program is able to tell the processor to allocate memory directly? No. This C program can directly tell the processor to allocate memory. Okay, which means it is directly interact with RAM. That's what we can say. But comes to Java, we have a separate environment, just like bank office. That office is called virtual machine. So we need to interact with that virtual machine to do any task. For example, we have Java program. I would like to allocate memory in RAM, but you need to ask the JVM, Java Virtual Machine, to allocate memory. This JVM will do the task, will allocate the memory and hides the total address. It hides the address of that memory location, and that JVM returns something else to you. It encrypts that address, and some hexadecimal value will be generated, and that hexadecimal value gives to us, to the program, right? So what that JVM is doing? Yes, that JVM is hiding something. It is not let the programmer to interact directly with the memories. It will allocate the memory. It will deallocate the memory. If you want to read the file, through that JVM only we can read the file. If you want to store the data, through that JVM only we can store the data. Just like bank office. There some security checkings will be there in that Java virtual machine. If it's everything is okay, then only that code will get executed. Such type of environment will be there in Python also, in Java also, in .NET also. Got my point? These are high level languages. This cannot directly interact with the hardware components of a computer. These languages cannot directly interact with the memory addresses. See one thing, in C you can see the address. In assembly language you can see the address of a memory location. In machine language you can see the address of a memory location. But in Java you cannot see the address. You cannot see the address. Okay? Why I am not able to see the address of a variable? Because JVM is there. JVM won't allow you to see the address. If you want, I say, please sir, please JVM, I would like to store some value. Can you tell me the address? What is the need of address? Please give me that value. I know the address. I have given some encrypted address, right? Give that encrypted address to me. I know that I will decrypt that one. I will find the actual address and I will store the value there. I don't want to burden you, okay? No need to directly interact with the memory. Please stay there. I'll interact with the memory. That's what JVM actually tells here. Such languages are called as high level languages. Okay? What about middle level languages then? What are middle level languages? Simple. It has both the features, like easy to write. It is a language. First of all, it is a language. It has both the features of high level and low level programming languages. First, easy to write, understand, debug. Second, also used to. These languages are also used to directly interact with or directly manage hardware components of a computer. We can directly interact with memory. We can directly get the address of a memory. Okay, we can directly get the address of an array, address of a variable, like that. Okay, we can directly interact with memory. We can display the addresses here if you want. In C, I'll tell you the best example for middle level language is C. Okay, if you take the example of C, now tell me, do you have the pointers concept in C? Yes. Can you tell me what is pointer? Pointer is a variable. It holds the address of another variable. Oh, if you print the pointer, what you will get? You will definitely get the address. See, that is the one example I can give you. Yes, I am directly interact with the memory. I'll directly have that address in my program itself. So if a hacker writes a program in C, can he able to directly get the address of our memory locations? Is it possible? Yes, it is absolutely possible. That's why hackers develop virus programs very easily in C. Do you know that? Because interaction with the memory or hardware components very easy by using low level or mid level languages. So hackers write the programs very easily in C, in VB. I've heard about VB or VB script, like that. Some languages are there which are very suitable to write the virus programs also, because those programs can use we can use them to directly interact with the hardware components or memory, etc. Got my point? Yes. So now I think we have got some clarity about low level languages, high level languages and mid level languages. High level languages, very easy to understand, write, maintain, debug, etc. and can't directly interact with the hardware components of a computer. Low level languages. Yes, very hard to write, very hard to understand, very hard to debug. Even if you write the code, some other person can't understand very easily. That's what happens. Examples for these languages, examples of low level languages are machine language and assembly language. Comes to middle level languages, C, C++ are middle level languages, and here we have both the features. You can directly interact with hardware components. At the same time, we can write the code very easily, easy to understand. Some other persons can understand your code very easily. Debugging and maintenance also becomes easy. So these are the what you call different types of categories of programming languages we have. And now we are going to discuss about why Java is called as a general purpose programming language. What is Java? What is Java? The answer is Java is a general purpose programming language. Or we can say general purpose object oriented programming language. Why Java is called as general purpose programming language? Simple. By using Java, we can develop different types of applications or softwares. I'll give you one example. See, we have a server-side scripting language called PHP. PHP is called as a programming language, or we can say server-side scripting language. By using PHP, do you know what type of applications we can develop? Only websites or web applications. That's it. We can't do any other applications, like we can't do mobile applications. We cannot do desktop applications. We cannot use it in embedded systems. We cannot use it for IoT, Internet of Things. And we cannot use in data science applications. We can't use it in machine learning. We can't use it in AI, artificial intelligence. We can't use it PHP in data analytics, etc. So PHP is only to develop websites. That's it. Dynamic websites. So PHP is not a general purpose programming language or general purpose server-side scripting language. It is not general purpose, because by using it we can develop only one type of applications, that is web applications or websites. But by using Java, we can develop different types of applications. That's why it is called as general purpose object oriented programming language. So by using Java, we can develop different types of applications. So by using Java, we can develop different types of applications, like 1. Websites or web applications. 2. Desktop applications. 3. Applications for embedded systems or softwares for we can also use the Java in IoT. We can use Java in IoT applications. We can use Java for data science, or we can say we can use Java in data science applications. We can use Java in data analytics. We can use for data analytics, and it's very important, used to develop mobile apps, Android. To develop Android applications, we can use Java. Used for mobile applications, etc. We can use Java to develop different types of applications. Websites, we know that. www.facebook.com, Instagram.com, Pinterest, or madhutechskills.com, Queninar.com, ragby.com. Like that, we have even flipkart.com, Amazon. We have many websites, right? So by using Java also we can develop websites. Second, what is desktop application? Simple. An application which runs in a system where it was installed. See, let us say, okay, take my laptop as an example. In my laptop, let us say I have installed MS Office software. Okay, now you are all my students and you are in my computer education itself. Okay, let us think like that. You are in my computer education. I have the Wi-Fi. Its name is MadhuTechSkills. I have shared the password to you all. Okay, everybody has its own laptop. You have everybody opened the laptop and you have given the password and you have connected to the Wi-Fi, MadhuTechSkills Wi-Fi. Now I am asking you, the software which I have installed in my laptop, that is MS Office, can you access it? Is it possible just like website? It's not possible. Websites are possible. If I develop a website and I have deployed it in my server, okay, I have, sorry, one thing is sure, one thing is for sure. What is it? Websites are run in only servers. Can I make my computer a server? Yes, it is possible. Server means a software. So I'll install a software, server software in my computer. In that server, I have placed my web application and I'm asking you all to access this website. It's possible. Everybody access this website because it is web application deployed in one system and accessible from other systems also. But comes to desktop application, if I have developed a desktop application and I have installed it in my computer, even though you have we are all in the same network, you can't access it because it is desktop application or stand alone application. It is an application which runs in a system where it was installed actually. That's you have to remember. Next point, software for embedded systems. Do you know one thing? Actually Java developed only to develop softwares for embedded systems. So Java invention started for embedded systems only. Java invention started to develop softwares for electronic devices only. See this? It is a remote, right? It's a remote. So in this, you need to install some software. Then only I can operate from here. The AC I am operating, right? So I am able to operate from here because of this embedded system. It is an embedded system, right? What is an embedded system? It is the combination of hardware and software and which performs only some operations. How many operations are there in this remote controller? Only few. On, off, swing, mode, fan, etc, etc, etc. Increase the temperature, decrease the temperature. Only we have some operations, right? Can we install some software and do something like mobile phone or laptop? Do you install some other softwares in it? No, it's not a computer. It is just an embedded system. It is also installed with some software. That software I can do in Python, in Python also, okay, in Java also. And another example for embedded system is printer. Another example for embedded system is washing machine. microwave oven. And there's another one for, yeah, everything, every electronic device. Would you like to operate it through some, what you can say, what do you call, yeah, remote controller, or through some settings. If you operate automatically, if you operate that machine automatically from some settings, yes, that will be installed with some software, like washing machines also. So you can develop embedded softwares for embedded system by using Java. It's also possible. IoT, Internet of Things. You might have heard about IoT, right? So IoT means Internet of Things, means easy. So if you are able to operate that AC from your country, for example, you are staying in USA or you are staying in Canada, you can operate my AC from Canada also even. But you need mobile phone. In that you have to install some app. Okay, it might be iOS app or it might be a Android app you have to install, and through that app you can operate it from other country also. How it is possible? First thing, your AC must be exist in a network, internet. So I'll connect some internet connection to that AC. It's also possible, just like smart TVs. Okay, now the thing means AC is the thing, Internet of Things, right? So has internet. AC has internet. Now mobile is also has internet. If these two are interact with each other, then it is called IoT. Okay, so I'll give the instruction from here. It will goes to the cloud. From cloud, that AC will be received. AC receives that instructions, on, off, increase temperature, decrease temperature, like that. So mobile phone, AC, cloud. I'll give the instruction to the cloud. From cloud, that AC can receive the instructions and perform accordingly based on the instruction I have given through the mobile phone. Such type of applications are called as Internet of Things or IoT applications. In IoT applications also, I can use Java. Even mobile applications, for mobile applications also, I can use Java. Now, at present, data science is very popular. Okay, I'm not talking more about data science. Okay, in future, maybe I'll try to create a session for what is data science, and we'll go in depth. I think you have heard about data science, right? So data science, yeah. See, I'll give you some example. In data science, we use ML, machine learning, and data analytics also even. Okay, every popular website is using this concept now. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, and also data analytics. Data science contains all these things also even. Machine learning, data analytics, and AI. Data science contains these parts even. Right. So where we are using data science, or where we are using machine learning, where we are using data analytics. To analyze something, we use data analytics. For example, what is the future? When this COVID is going to get cured, when the COVID virus is getting slowed down, some analytics, some websites are displaying some analytics, right? Maybe in future June ending will get maybe this virus will get reduced automatically, or this virus may be controlled, because we have 130 crores of people. So in this country, to control over the COVID-19 virus, it might take something like that. They'll show some graphs. Based on that, they will say that yes, we can control it. Oh, okay, we are not about I'm talking about cure. We can control it from affecting others. Yeah, it's possible. You can reduce the COVID cases on June ending or something else. They'll based on analyzations they will do. How they can actually analyze it? They take the everyday data. What is happened? How many cases are registered? How many cases are get cured? And how much we are able to reducing by using this lockdown? Based on the data, which is previous data, like first day, second day, third day. I think it is almost 45 days or 50 days is happening, right? So in these 50 days, what is happened? How the COVID effect is growing or decreasing? Which areas it is decreasing? In which areas it is increasing? based on the old data, we can predict the future. That is called data science. That is done with data analytics and etc. Whether now whether we are going to sorry okay, we can say I can even predict whether it is going to be rain or not, and I can predict how my business will be in future. For example, do you heard about YouTube channel? Everybody using YouTube channel, right? That YouTube channel itself suggests you recommended videos. Who is recommending those videos? Because of this data science, it has ML, machine learning. Machine learns something from you based on search and gives some suggestions to you. If you are searching for some tragedy songs, automatically you will get all suggested videos about Abhinandana, that is a Telugu movie which is tragedy movie, and Geeta Anjali, Abhinandana, etc., etc., etc. Otherwise, we can say if you are north side guys, Ashiki, something like. So you can get some you will get some suggestions from YouTube about your old search. Let us say, I think a few days or few months, I think 1.5 months before, I've learned data science actually. Every time if I open the Google search engine, I'll search for what is data science, what is ML, something like that. Okay. So after searching there, if I want to see the news, or if I want to see some songs or movies, I'll go to the YouTube channel. There I'll play some video. Then I'll get a advertisement. Do you know what is that advertisement is? Advertisement maybe? Yes, that advertisement is regarding what I have searched in Google search engine. You know that Google search engine and YouTube both are related to Google company, right? So that's why the data which I have searched in search engine, that is stored in a Google server. So when I'm login with same Gmail ID in YouTube channel, and I'm searching for some tragedy songs, even tragedy songs, or you are seeing the news channel, or you are watching some other videos, you'll get advertisement. Do you know what is that advertisement? That is regarding the previous search you have done. Who is suggesting to you? Who is giving those ads to you? That YouTube channel, YouTube website. So in YouTube website, they have implemented machine learning concept. They have implemented data analytics. There's some analytics also going on there, right? Maybe he is searching for data science. He might have joined in a data science course, which is offered by some X company, some X institute. So give that ad to this Madhu, so that if he click that ad, Google will get some money, right? If he joins in a particular university for data science course, maybe he will get some percentage also, I don't know. So Google is gaining money because of this data science, because of this ML, machine learning, because of this data analytics. Such type of applications we can develop by using data science. Just I'm giving you a brief introduction. Okay, next come to data analytics. Last one is mobile applications, right? So now tell me, all these applications we can develop by using Java, right? That's why it is called as general purpose object oriented programming language. Okay, so everything is fine. Why Java is called as object oriented programming language then? For that, I'll give you a simple explanation, not in depth, a simple explanation. Java supports concepts, object oriented programming concepts. That's why Java is called as object oriented programming language. Why Java is called as object oriented programming language? Why Java is called as an object oriented programming language? Okay, yes, simple answer. Java supports OOPS concepts. Java supports OOPS concepts. That's why it is called as object oriented programming language. Do you know what are the OOPS concepts Java supports? Data abstraction, and it is called as one of the important OOPS concept. What is OOPS concept? What is data abstraction? What is encapsulation? Yes, we will know about all the things in depth clearly. I will let you know the difference. What is data abstraction? What is encapsulation? What is inheritance? What is polymorphism? So I'll let you know clearly about everything. Okay. So now tell me. So why Java is called as object oriented? Simple. Because it supports OOPS concepts, it's called as object oriented. That's it. So Java supports OOPS concepts like data abstraction and encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance. That's why it is called as object oriented. C++ supports these OOPS concepts. That's why it is also called as object oriented. Smalltalk also supports OOPS concepts. That's why Smalltalk is also called as object oriented programming language. So Java, Python also object oriented. C++, Smalltalk, etc. Smalltalk, etc. are object oriented programming languages. Just a moment.